Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Podcasting to you from the field here in beautiful rural Ireland. I'm Trev Downey, and this is Newsround for Anfield Index Pro. And I'm joined today by Michael Statham, who's going to talk to us about Cody Gakpo. Before we start, Michael, could you tell folks who you are and what your area of expertise is, and maybe where they could find your work if they were so choosing to look for it after this chat?
All right, thanks, Trev. I'm Michael Statham. I watch too much Dutch football, whether that's the Eredivisie or the Dutch national team. And I've seen Cody Gakpo come through over the years. I've been watching it for quite a long time now. And I love the league. I love the national team. And I'm just here to sort of give what I've seen, not just on the pitch, but also off the pitch too. So look forward to it.
Fantastic. And are you currently writing columns anywhere or doing analysis anywhere else that people could have a look afterwards, or a Twitter handle or anything they could follow your work on?
So for.All is the name of the outlet that I mainly write for, which is the biggest English language outlet of Dutch football. So if you like Dutch football or want to get into it, come and check us out. You spell that as football, like the English way. And Oranje is orange, but replace the G with a J. And you've got it. We have a website, which is posted on daily. We have a Twitter page, which is quite well received. And we have a YouTube channel, which has interviews with players on and also podcasts and stuff like that. So check us out.
We will do. Fantastic. Thank you for that. So let's start talking about the main man, Cody, who everyone's so curious to know about. And obviously, look, there are going to be a lot of basic questions here that I'm going to ask. Consider me a complete newcomer to this kid. I've seen him play a few times live, obviously, like most of us have, between World Cups and various other outlets that we've had a chance to watch him. And he's always looked like a very, very solid and exciting footballer of late. But of course, there's a long story arc here. And I've heard some of this story because obviously, like everybody else, I've been digging in to find out as much as I can about him. Could you maybe give us a thumbnail sketch of his career arc today? Because unless I'm mistaken, he's been with PSV, I think, pretty much as a lifer. I think maybe another club as a very young man, but had started, I think, making appearances for the first team around about 2018. Does that sound right? And could you give us a roadmap of what that's looked like in terms of his development and breakthrough into the first team? Was it meteoric? Was it gradual? That type of thing.
Of course, people will be interested to hear him have that journey. I can absolutely give that to you. Obviously, I won't be giving facts, stats, numbers, because I think if people want to do that, they can go and look on Transfermarkt and stats and elsewhere online. But he very much followed the same journey a lot of young Dutch players have, but obviously a successful journey where by staying with one club for a long period of time and coming into his prime at the top of the Eredivisie has really benefited him, and he will succeed as a consequence of that. Because there are loads of players that have potential in the Eredivisie and then they don't see it through. They don't stay with a top Eredivisie club for long enough. They go abroad too early. Even in some cases as teenagers, and it doesn't work out. Very rarely have I actually seen it come out for the good. I think one player I could think of that stands out is Nathan Ake, who is now in people's minds in English football. He's probably one small exception, I would say. Cody, though, he started off with PSV, has come through the ranks there. He's a PSV man, he's a fan of the club. And it was around 17, 18 that he started playing for the second team, and the second team playing the Dutch second division. As is common there with the top clubs in Eredivisie, there are 4 that play in the Dutch second tier, where they've got the youngsters. And he was one of those. He scored almost like a goal per game in that league at the time, before he made like his impact on the first team level. Yeah, it was around 2018 that he made his first team debut, sort of broke through, if you like, then. Then he went on to replace names who've left. I mean, Stephen Bergwijn was one that moved on from the club.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
He came and was the next winger, I guess, in that conveyor belt of they'll raise someone up, sell them for a lot of money. There's another player in the youth academy that can replace them. He started really making an impact though when he about 18 months ago he stayed with the club where people were like interested in him, and it was like, this is his big season up ahead. Like if he churns out those numbers and is influential for the club, he will get that big move. He will make his appearances for the Dutch national team and so on. And he did. He had a great season last season, and his goal in the Dutch Cup final helped PSV win a piece of silverware. Their first in a few years, PSV, they should be winning something they feel like every year. It's not always possible, but he kind of brought that back to the club, which is great. Then it was this season where he may have left. He was linked with Leeds United and Southampton a lot. He nearly went to Leeds, stayed with the club, and he has had a good first half of the season. I say good, that's probably a really underrated way of saying it. He had a brilliant first half of the season. He scored loads of goals, set up loads of goals, and ended up being one of the first names on the team sheet for the Netherlands at the World Cup. So he's gone from Leeds and Southampton being interested in him to Manchester United and Liverpool. That's where he's up to right now. He's a club man, and yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about him lots more, but that's kind of like his journey so far.
And I want to talk to you. That's a really good, I think, sketch of it, because that gives people a feel for how he's evolved. And what's curious for me, what I'm curious about is evolution in terms of where he's playing on the pitch. In other words, is there a possibility that we're looking at a guy who's evolving, or has he, like a lot of people are going to wonder, right, where's he going to fit for Liverpool? So would you be able to give us some insight into where it is that he has played for the team? I know you've mentioned he's a winger, but obviously there's a lot of chat, where will he fit in for us? Has he played elsewhere? Is he one of those guys that sort of can move across the front three? Would he be comfortable as a 10? Has he ever even had a go as a 9, that type of thing? Or is he, do you think, an out-and-out winger?
And the first thing I'll mention is when he was coming through the youth ranks, he was definitely rated as like the best talent coming through, and that was always as a left winger. But he had at the time played as a striker sometimes too for the Dutch PSV second team, and then we got those minutes. He got those chances in the left wing with PSV. Not really a right winger, because he's so good when he comes on his right foot. Everyone loves an inverted winger nowadays. He's definitely one of those. Excellent crossing ability. That suits English football down to the ground, doesn't it? Someone can cross a ball. And then from corners even, he's quite prolific actually. He's got a lot of goals from corners this season for PSV. But then also for his shooting too, you would absolutely lose that if you put him on the right side. So he's always been that left winger. And there have been times for the PSV's first team where he has played as a striker too, mainly because of his physical abilities, his height. He can head the ball. I would suggest in the Premier League he wouldn't be as effective as that. Defences here are bigger, they're stronger, they're more wise. He, in the World Cup, also showed though that he can play as a number 10, which is something that I'm not familiar with him ever doing. He may well have had like odd minutes here and there doing it, but he wasn't known for that. So it was a bit of a surprise move from Louis van Gaal with the Netherlands, but it made all sorts of sense for the Dutch national team. People watch them during the World Cup. I'm sure they're aware that the Netherlands played a 3-4-1-2, a 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it. And he was playing behind these two pacier strikers in the middle. The Netherlands don't have another number 10 that could be better than Gakpo, even though it's not his natural position. I mean, from a Liverpool perspective, probably the next best after that is David Klaassen, but we will say no more about him. We all know how poor he was in the Premier League. So yeah, Gakpo he fit that role well because of what he can do at the edge of the box with his shooting, with his runs into the box. He's got a great first touch, and he can dribble at defences too. So he had all that sort of side of his game as a number 10. He was put as a winger once in the World Cup, and that was when the Netherlands were losing to Argentina, and they were 2-0 down. His crosses helped sort of get them back into the game because they just went route one, didn't they? He was just on the left wing. He got the ball instantly, touch, cross every time, and he didn't have like a disappointing cross. You can see that his crossing ability is going to be so important from the left wing for Liverpool, especially Nunez in the middle. But that flexibility is what is going to give him the minutes in the team when he can't play on that left wing.
That's really interesting that you've gone there, because it's a beautiful segue into what I want to ask you. And you've already touched on a lot of it, to be fair, Michael, but I'm curious about the guy's strengths. Now, we'll start with his footballing strengths and attributes, and then I wouldn't mind segueing into what kind of a fella you think he is, what kind of character he is. But let's start there. You've mentioned a lot of stuff there that sounds very, very positive. And of course, my head's spinning now because I'm thinking, okay, we've got hopefully Diaz coming back to go in that position. Nunez likes to drift out there. Are we oversubscribed? But obviously, if this is his strongest position, this is his strongest position. As you say, we'll see how he evolves when he gets to us. Klopp will have a plan, no doubt. But in terms of what people can expect to see from him, you've mentioned decent first touch. You've mentioned crossing ability. I heard somebody on another show talk about him as, it was weird, Michael. It came across like he was kind of like a very solid citizen, solid touch, not the paciest guy in the world, but will never does most things right most of the time. One of those guys, which I really appreciate about someone like Luis Diaz, for example. Yes, there's flair there, but he doesn't tend to lose the ball. His passes tend to find the mark and so on. Is that the kind of guy we're getting?
It is, but I would say what sets him apart is his crossing ability. It's not something we often see in the Netherlands. It's a player that can get a ball, very good first touch, get out their feet, and then just to whip it in. And there's only someone similar I can think of that's like that, and that's like an old-fashioned Ashley Young in his heyday at Aston Villa. Like, he was this young player, and he was quite one-dimensional in what he did, whereas Gakpo's got all these other bits to his game too. And I think that's what will set him apart from very good players, is that he has got most things in his game, but he's got those other bits as well that can set him apart from the rest. And he's got more than one thing, I guess, that is really better than most of the players. So, yeah, he's a very solid in most of his aspects. There are some downsides to his game. I'd say you don't want him deep. He's not a hold-up striker who plays as a number 9. And he has struggled with PSV when he's crowded. And I know that sounds obvious. Of course, if someone's up against one defender, they're going to do better than against 3. But he doesn't do well in crowded spaces. He finds that quite tricky.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m, Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin De Vries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
When the game really opens up, when he plays the PSV, or when on the counter-attack, that is when he's most effective. And that, I think, is something that Liverpool get the best out of. You mentioned there about Nunez coming into his wide areas out on the left. The PSV, people may be aware of Luke de Jong. He played in England before. He played for the Netherlands in the World Cup. And he's a tall striker. He was like brilliant for someone like Gakpo who could whip the ball into him. But that was only because de Jong stayed in the box. He stayed in those dangerous areas. De Jong's not very mobile, of course, so that helped. But if he had other players out in that area as well, he'd have no player in the box to aim for. And I think that's what he will thrive the best out of, is people getting in the box around the main striker, and him delivering those crosses either out wide or from the corners.
Yes, so many of the goals I've seen, Michael, of his, highlights reel involve him whipping in these crosses and someone basically, usually de Jong, getting a foot there in the 6-yard box and poking it home. And that's very, like I said, that's a type of goal I would love to see us add to our repertoire as a club. There are a couple of specific things I want to ask you about. Two-footedness. How solid is he with both feet? Because that, for a modern attacker, is quite the thing.
Yeah, not the best ever weak foot, but very good, very strong. He has this thing the way he'll cut in, and everyone knows he's going to cut in. Everyone knows he's dangerous on that foot. But there are some players I've seen before in the Eredivisie where they don't have that left foot then, because then if they can't go on the inside, they can't go on the outside, and they don't have maybe that marauding left back to come down and help them either. Then it's up to him to do it. And I can remember a few of his goals where he has then gone on his left foot, taken it to the byline, then pulled it back. And he's very good at that too. He set up de Jong a few times doing that, as well as on his right foot. Yeah, it's not like he's can use both feet with his eyes closed, but he's got a very strong left foot as well.
And two other things then, just in terms of pace, and this is going to be weird. It sounded a bit of a weird thing talking about a nominal winger, but I'm thinking here about Trent Alexander on the opposite flank. I'm thinking of one of those classic shaped Trent crosses. I'm thinking about a lad raiding in from the back post. Now, we're used to seeing Andy Robertson arriving and making an absolute balls of every shot that he takes, right? Because Robbo's great, but he can't shoot. I'm thinking about lads arriving in those positions. So first thing then, pace. Second thing, heading ability.
He's more like athletic. He has got pace, but I would say he's that athletic character and can go forwards and back quite quickly. But I don't think it's something he's known for. As for heading ability, actually, yeah, he is quite good. I think getting in the back post is something I'd like to see him do more often, especially now at Liverpool, because it's not something that I would associate with him doing, but I know he can do it. Him playing as a number 9 in particular, he knows where to be in the box. So I wouldn't put it past him at all to add that to his game next. Now that he's not like the main person putting the balls in the box, PSV don't have a right winger, for example, that can do the same thing. They have Manu Madueke, who's pacey, tricky, and will go to the byline and deliver low crosses. No one puts in high crosses like Gakpo does on the other side of PSV. So yeah, it's not something I've seen too often. As for your second question, you asked about his heading ability. Yeah, he can do that. He's 6'2", has scored a few headers already, and I wouldn't say it's a weakness of his game at all. I think it's something actually that helps him go to a Premier League, because he has that physical side to his game as well, being athletic and strong in the air, whereas other Eredivisie players maybe haven't had that and then struggled.
Then there's one last technical thing in terms of dead ball delivery, because obviously that's a real asset to any team. And Liverpool tend to be reasonably good at converting set pieces. But it would be wonderful to have another person capable of delivering wonderful stuff. And an awful lot, again, of the contributions and assists I've seen in his highlight reel, and in the couple of games I've seen in real life, have actually come from dead balls, corners, free kicks, and the
corners
like.
Corners
in particular. This seems to be a real strength, Michael.
Yeah, it's a way you can drop the ball in a sixpence almost from those kind of things. He's not like known for his passing stats or anything. So his game is quite direct. It's aimed at getting the ball straight away into the strikers and finishing chances himself. He has been working on trying to get into the box and being more deadly, if you like, in whether not just scoring a goal, but being creative and being that person that will make the goal, make it happen. And that has gone up so much in the past couple of years. This season even more so, just being so prolific with whatever he does. And I would say that corners, and I know Liverpool got some good takers of corners, but I want him taking them, especially from his left side, his left wing. That would work really, really well.
Fantastic. I mean, that's exciting to hear. And just in terms of, again, look, at the risk of sounding like I'm trotting in a cliche, I've noticed over the years watching recruits come to the Premier League and watching international football interviews that, as a general trait, Dutch footballers don't lack for confidence, right? They seem to have that sort of, a kind of very quiet or loud confidence about them. It's a huge aspect of Klopp's recruitment that he picks what he calls the right, he always talks about he's a really good guy, right? This is massive part of Klopp and the recruitment process. You have to be the right character. I don't mean everybody has to be hugging each other all the time, but you have to be this kind of guy that he can rely on and that he knows is a good lad who's going to have the right attitude. In terms of Gakpo's attitude on the field, is he a very kind of positive, upbeat guy? What can you tell us about the sort of fellow we're dealing with here?
Someone who's committed and very driven. He has that confidence because you need to be like that. You need to have a bit of arrogance about you if you're going to succeed at this level. But he isn't outwardly so. And you often see it in particular with Ajax players that come to the Premier League. Ajax players thrive on almost, I'm going to say the word arrogance because that's what it is, but they do really well at it, and it gets them places, it gets them prizes, and it gets them transfers abroad. So when I look at Gakpo, he's not quite the same kind of character for that. It comes from, I guess we might call it more of a humble background with him having come through the PSV academy, really showing himself as that. He's a fan of the club, and all this sort of side of it is added to also when you think how much the fans love him. I've been showing British media that there was a banner in the crowds for PSV fans when they really wanted to sign a new contract in the summer and not leave to go to England. He jokingly went over and signed it himself. It was a great idea. It was a lovely thing for him to do, lovely touch. And he's spoken a lot about other things in the media that have helped drive him. For example, he's got a really strong Christian faith. It's helped him a lot with his playing. He's someone who's spoken about how he wants to get to places, but not someone who goes, I'm going to stay at this club for another year, then I'm going to make my dream move abroad. He's not as outward as I know some players can be with that. He has goals in his head, and he was really pleased to win the Dutch Cup in May. He was really pleased to stay with the club and captain the club. He was a vice captain, but De Jong was out injured, so he was it for most of this season. He got his goal about playing with the national team in the World Cup. So if he can continue that with Liverpool now, he's only going to continue to grow. And a little though you touched upon potential, I think that Gakpo had more potential to give back in the summer. It felt like there was still more for him to go. But now this step he's taken to where he is now, this feels like he's beginning to reach his peak. And I think from the left wing, he could be really, really good for Liverpool because of that. Him coming into his prime and being confident as well, but not overly so. Just the right kind of character, right? The right kind of person you want in your football club.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked, and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Really sounds like it, man. Sounds like we're getting this guy at just bang at the right time in his career in terms of development and potential and all of the right things you want to be hearing. And I just to make a couple of connections then, final connections to Liverpool. What do you make of about the stories you've heard? We know that Van Dijk was quite instrumental in terms of conversations with Cody, in terms of, you know, letting him know what the club's all about and possibly leaning on him a bit about it. There's also that very strong story about Pep Blinders, and I'm not sure how much faith to put in this. Some of our supporters have gone off on a run, especially those who maybe are a little bit suspicious of Pep. What have you heard in terms of what the real clincher was here, or have you heard anything about where this move came about? Because it's classic recent times Liverpool business. It's just done, and that's, you hear about it on the day it's done.
I mean, from my point of view, it was a surprise to hear that a deal had been reached with Liverpool, but I'm sure that this wasn't just an instant thing. Liverpool went for the grab and to snatch him under a club's nose. I don't think that was the case. I think it was always a club that would have been interested in watching him closely, and it was last summer that I'm sure Liverpool wouldn't have wanted him because of a few things in his game I can touch upon in a minute that maybe put them off going for him. It would have happened by transfer deadline day. It was rumoured that the clubs were going for him at the very end of August. Why didn't a club go for him earlier? Why didn't a club at Liverpool swoop for him in July? Then it came to this transfer window, and it's not even opened yet, and Liverpool have come and signed him. So it makes me think it was the World Cup that had an impact on this decision. I think that Van Dijk had a big part to play in it as well. Not that he was crucial to it, but certainly a deal clincher when you think that Man United have been interested for so long and Liverpool. It made me think that might have just swayed him in that direction. And he was only ever going to go to a club he knew he was going to get minutes, develop further, and just a really strong club to be in. And it may not have been for Klopp, but he said already that he knows he's going to teach him some things at the club. So as for other things that are rumoured to be his reasons why, I can't comment for sure. Only the player will know. But this is the thing he's been thinking of and dreaming of. He chose not to move to Leeds United in the summer because that's not what he wanted. He with no disrespect to clubs that lower down the Premier League, but he's been looking for a top European club and stay with PSV to try and get that. He didn't want that middle move, if you like, which hasn't been so easy for some Premier League players. Gini Wijnaldum, someone where it did work out really well, going from PSV to Newcastle, then to Liverpool. I don't think this is what Gakpo wanted. He wanted to be important for a club right at the top of the league and also to get into that World Cup squad. He got all of those things. It's kind of going really well to plan for him at the moment.
It really is.
It really is. But I should say, though, that the reason why he didn't get sort of picked up by Leeds desperately or a club higher up the league is people have been critical of him in really big games. And for most of this year, so was I. I was also really critical of him. But it's his step up he's had in the past few months that have persuaded me now that he's ready for a move like this, and not just to Leeds or Southampton. He wasn't very effective in some European games, you could say, for PSV, and it's now that he's proven against Arsenal in Europa League and the World Cup itself that he can do it.
And would you say, Michael, that your feelings of criticism towards him were stemming from the fact that you thought there's more in this lad than he's showing here? Is that basically it? Yeah,
definitely. When I watched him against Leicester in the Conference League quarterfinals, I thought, come on then, Cody, this is your chance. show that you are better than any other player on this pitch. And he was so invisible. I couldn't believe it. He did have one assist, I think, over those 2 legs, but he wasn't that key character that I thought he would be. I had PSV to be actually a bit better than Leicester, and I thought that he would have made a difference. He didn't. Against Rangers in August Champions League qualifying, I thought that, again, this is a chance against a British club. The Europe is watching, the UK is watching to see what you're made of. Didn't do it, didn't cut it, and it really surprised me over those 2 legs that he couldn't have that impact that he has for a lot of the time for PSV. But he has also shown me moments where he can do it. And he lifted the Dutch Cup, for example, being important in the win against Ajax. He's done it in the league's big games this season. He's done it against Arsenal in Europa League, and he's done it in the World Cup, the biggest stage of them all, in a different position that's not even his own, in a team that didn't really have many attacking chances in each game. He was still able to be effective and stand out for the Dutch.
Yeah, again, probably part of this development you're talking about. And just we should touch on one other thing before we finish, which is his injury record. Obviously, it's a sore point with Liverpool fans who have seen their squad cut to ribbons on too many occasions in recent seasons. What's Cody's injury record been like?
It's funny you say that. I've been on a few things with British media so far about Cody, and I've had a lot of positive things to say, and an injury record has not really come up yet. I think it's something people should have a little note of and kind of go, oh no, because yeah, he has missed a couple of key periods in seasons before, and I spoke earlier about him having this like key season in Eredivisie for PSV, because the season before that he had a bit of time out injured. When he was coming through the ranks, he had a couple of ankle injuries, so he's not had it completely clear of injuries, and he's not injury prone. He's no Jonathan Woodgate, but he has got had a few things in the past which may make people concerned that this could happen again. Not that it's likely, of course, but if you look at his record, he has had a few in the past.
That's really interesting. And again, look, it's just for the sake of completism, Michael. You know yourself, we'd like to touch as many bases as possible. And look, I'm just I have one final question for you that's not Gakpo related, but just more to talk about your own area of expertise and tie in with the concept of transfers. But just before we wrap up on Cody, is there anything else that is floating around the back of your mind that we haven't touched on there that you think might be relevant to folks in terms of information they could do with knowing?
Do you mean in regards to Cody Gakpo's move?
Yeah, anything at all about the guy himself or the player, or any details we haven't touched on, because I don't want to leave anything on the table. And I noticed you've been making links over and back like a proper interview subject. So I don't want to leave anything on the ground that you might have wanted to mention.
I think he's someone that we've watched for a long time on for.All. He's always caught our eye because he's Dutch. Someone who maybe is a likable character. I think that's quite a big thing we picked up on over the years. Just being so capable, being a winger from the Netherlands in the Eredivisie, you always get noticed if you've scored a few goals. And I just got this feeling with him that he won't be someone who could flop. For example, I'm on the record as saying with Anthony going to Manchester United that I didn't think it was the right time for him to move. I think he should stay with Ajax another year. I think that he went for a really inflated transfer fee. And I think that Cody Gakpo is a little different in that. I think it's a smarter move, but people are being put off by his record in those bigger games, which is now put to rest, I think. And it had another spurt over the last few months. He's not the perfect player. I know I've talked about a lot of positives on this show, but he's someone I'm really willing to do well again with Liverpool, because it will only help the Dutch national team too, from our perspective of for.All. And I think he's a great player.
Well, it's very, very encouraging all round. And because it's the time of year it is, people tend to get greedy. Eyes get too big for the belly. You reach for the extra roast potato, but you also want to get that extra player over the line in the transfer window. Now, as someone who's watching the Eredivisie all the time, who are the guys who do you think are in that category that's Cody Gakpo moving to the Premier League? Give us a couple of names that we should be on the lookout for. Maybe, again, the type of lads who are on that upward curve.
If I could, I can give you one from each of the other top clubs in the Eredivisie.
Great.
We've seen Cody Gakpo leave now at PSV. Xavi Simons is someone who's also getting that reputation now. He's got to take on that mantle of being important for the club. He only had a few minutes in the World Cup. I was gutted about that. An attacking midfielder that I know people will be talking about in the coming years. So listen to that, Xavi Simons some more. Then at Ajax, Jurgen Timber, who was a defender at the World Cup for the Netherlands. I think he can continue to have a good season after his World Cup, which is quite successful. He'll be on the radar of some more clubs. He didn't go to Manchester United in the summer. When I talk about Feyenoord, I think about Erkan Koçu. He's a really great midfielder. He's not Dutch, he's Turkish, but could be in the Premier League. He was linked with Arsenal a lot. And if he has a season that he's having like this one, he could be a regular for a club like that if he continues. Really like an all-action midfielder. And I'm going to throw in another one as well, because people don't talk about the other clubs outside those top three, and I'll go to ours at Alkmaar. And they're just outside those top clubs. And Jesper Karlsson is someone people will hear a lot more about. Swedish left winger, has a lot of similar things to his game to Gakpo, but not as good. And I'm interested to see where he ends up. But I think they're all players, those ones I've said there, in 3 or 4 years, you will be hearing in the Champions League, maybe Europa League, and going, oh yeah, I've heard about them. They were in the Eredivisie a few years ago. They're destined for good things.
Man, I feel a lot more informed, and I really appreciate your time. So for this show and for taking us through the career arc of Cody Gakpo, Liverpool's new signing, Michael Statham, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.